there's always going to be negative aspects to any new technology. I mean, if you look back, you know, like television is sort of the prime example that people talk about. I mean, it brought a lot of, it changed the way we entertain. We're entertained. It changes the way we communicate, but it also maybe, dumbed down a lot of like national discourse on important subjects like politics. On the other hand, I mean, it did bring in some respects, it did bring that discourse, it democratized that discourse in a lot of respects. I mean, a lot of people, didn't have access to information before, and the internet has only really extended that. And so, when I look at somebody like Andrew Keen attacking blogging, saying it's a lot of amateurs, I say, well, it's a lot of amateurs writing and talking amongst themselves, and even if a lot of that is, pointless gibberish or insane ranting or whatever, I mean, there's still some value in that. It's still value in people being engaged, and I think that is really important. And I think, every technology, I think the thing that people don't realize about a lot of technology is that, like, technology change. A lot of new technologies are always changing the way that we understand ourselves and the way we think about the world, but it also changes what our sense of natural is. And that's something that's really unspoken a lot. And that's one of the things that I learned, I kind of take from my critical theory days, is like, what do we think is natural? And, what do we think of as being like just, it's like it's something that you don't even think about, right? It's like you don't have to think about what's natural, because it just sort of, it's when something is unnatural that you really, start to think about it. And so stuff like, carrying a little thing in your pocket which can like communicate with anyone on the planet and send text messages and access like this global internet, database or whatever. I mean, that seems perfectly natural to us now. And, but it really changes the way that we think about information. It changes the way that we interact with each other. It changes the way that we relate with one another. And, I find, like, for instance, I find myself, I don't necessarily write as much stuff down anymore because I know I can access it from my phone. But I also find that when it comes time to access information, when I have a question about something or when I need a fact or a figure or something like that, I can just pull out my phone and Google it. And I think that being able to have that sort of augmentation is really important. And, like, on the face of it, it's like, oh, well, when you want to find out what year the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock, like, it's great that you have this sort of like reference in your pocket. But it even goes beyond that. I mean, it really goes beyond, like, it's really changing the boundary of where we delineate, like, memory, like sort of our mental memory and the sort of external memory. The boundaries are becoming blurry, and it's reorganizing the way that we start to think about facts and data. I mean, you start to not necessarily think it's important to remember those dates because you can always look it up. And when it's funny, one of the things that I wrote for Red Herring when I was there was I sort of wrote a brief history of the handheld, and they said, okay, well, we want you to do like a history of handheld devices, and they thought I was going to start with like the Palm or like maybe like the HP calculator or something like that, and I actually started with like Sumerian tablets, and took it all the way up through like the Middle Ages and talked about like basically the history of like handheld information, and took it all up to the point where we're saying, well, it's not necessarily, it's no longer about like how much information you can fit in your hand. It's about how much information can be accessed, from your hand. And eventually, I mean, people talk about brain implants and stuff like that. So I guess eventually that stuff's going to happen. But for right now, it's really changing the way that we think about what is. It's almost like you don't even think about it anymore. It's like it's changing the sort of unspoken assumptions about knowledge and where knowledge resides and how we access and interact with knowledge.